Who's in charge of the FBI right now? Previous director of the FBI, Chris Wray, he stepped down before Trump's inauguration. Trump's nominee to replace Chris Wray isn't yet confirmed. He just had his confirmation hearing today. So who right now is running the FBI? It's okay if you don't know the answer to that question, because apparently the guy who is running the FBI right now is there by accident as the product of a mistake. This is from the Wall Street Journal. Quote, a week before Trump's inauguration, the Trump transition reached out to an FBI official in New York to serve as the FBI's temporary leader. Officials asked another FBI official, Brian Driscoll, who worked in hostage rescue operations, to please serve as FBI deputy. Driscoll is known to sign his name Driz. Driz with two Z's. Driz was tapped to be deputy director. Quote, each man had one conversation with Trump's FBI director nominee, Kash Patel. Each traveled to Washington, and each had set up in their respective suites on Inauguration Day when word reached them that the White House, had messed up. The White House had incorrectly listed Driscoll, Driz, as the acting director on its website. The Wall Street Journal reports, quote, instead of fixing the error, the pair decided to swap their temporary FBI roles and offices. Is that how this works? Somebody does a typo on the White House website, and bam, suddenly you are the acting director of the FBI. Yeah, that's Driz. They didn't mean to give you that job, but they accidentally did. Oh, God, you know, the IT is going to be such a hassle. Let's just switch offices instead. Okay, Driz, you're running the FBI then. Oops. Let's just go with it. Today, Senate Republicans spent today's confirmation hearing falling all over themselves to praise Kash Patel as the ideal person to lead the FBI, despite the fact that this is Kash Patel.
I'd shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopening it the next day as a museum of the deep state.
Here's how generally that went today when Senate Democrats tried to challenge him on statements like that one.
Could he just answer the question if he said that the FBI headquarters where they investigate cybercrime and terrorism should be shut down and open as a deep state?
Hey, Mr. Chair.
As a museum. Did he say that the headquarters should be shut down?
Mr. Chair.
I deserve an answer to that question. He is asking to be head of the FBI, and he said that their headquarters should be shut down.
Mr. Chair, parliamentary inquiry.
You got anything you want to say, Mr. Patel, before I go on to Senator Lee?
Simply this. If the best attacks on me are going to be false accusations and grotesque mischaracterizations, the only thing this body is doing is defeating the credibility of the men and women at the FBI.
Mr. Chairman, I am quoting his own words from September of 2024. It is his own words. It is not some conspiracy. It is what Mr. Patel actually said himself. Facts matter.
How dare you besmirch the men and women of the FBI by quoting statements said by me, Kash Patel, who has never worked for the FBI ever, and who did say I wanted to shut down the headquarters. That was just one of today's hearings. Three of the most controversial, most ostentatiously unqualified, sort of the most trolling choices Trump has made for his cabinet, three of them all had hearings on the same day at the same time today. At the first of his two confirmation hearings yesterday, Trump's health secretary nominee, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., seemed to not understand what Medicaid is, even though Medicaid insures roughly a fifth of all Americans and would be among the 13 federal health agencies he would be overseeing if he was confirmed. He also suggested that Americans have so many babies that most of the humans born on Earth in any given year are babies that are born in the United States. The United States, for the record, has roughly 4% of the Earth's population, so I don't know how things go at Mr. Kennedy's second hearing today.
You said the following, and I quote, "We should not be giving black people the same vaccine schedule that's given to whites because their immune system is better than ours." Can you please explain what you meant?
There's a series of studies, I think most of them by Poland, that show that to particular antigens that blacks have a much stronger reaction. There's differences in reaction to different products by different races.
So I have 17 seconds. Let me just ask you then. So what different vaccine schedule would you say I should have received?
That,
What different vaccine schedule should I have
Well,
received?
I mean, the pollen article suggests that blacks need fewer antigens.
A series of studies, I think most of them by Poland, that led to some people thinking that maybe Mr. Kennedy was talking to the country of Poland, studies from Poland. In fact, he seems to have been referring to one single study by a Dr. Poland, Gregory Poland, MD. In fact, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. made a whole anti-vaccine film targeting black people using that one study from Dr. Poland. But poor Dr. Poland, for years, has been telling anybody who will listen that RFK Jr. is completely, totally wrong about his work. Dr. Poland says RFK is wildly misrepresenting his research. Dr. Poland says, quote, "We do not have a study that shows African Americans need half the vaccine dose. We do not have a study that shows African American children are being overdosed. And please, for the love of God, stop citing my work in your weird anti-vaccine race science theories. Get my name out of your mouth." Senator Brooks told Robert F. Kennedy Jr. today that his assertions are dangerous, that she'll be voting against his nomination. But today's third hearing was for the Trump cabinet nominee, who's generally seen as having the greatest danger of not being confirmed. The third one was the hearing for former Democratic Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. He's Trump's nominee to be Director of National Intelligence, which I still can't believe anytime I say it. When it comes to red flags in a candidate's biography, senators are really spoiled for choice. With Ms. Gabbard, they could have held a whole hearing on just her 2017 secret trip to Syria, where she met with its Russian-backed dictator and came back making excuses for the atrocities he was committing against his own people, not to mention the meeting with the guy who said he had a network of suicide bombers ready to activate inside the United States. But for whatever reason, senators of both parties today were most exercised about Tulsi Gabbard's past support for Edward Snowden, the former NSA contractor who more than a decade ago leaked classified information on U.S. government spying programs. He now lives in Russia. And regardless of whether you may think this was the most vital thing to focus on, it was definitely a preoccupation of senators on the committee. And she refused so many times to agree with their characterization that Edward Snowden is a, quote, traitor, that Senator Michael Bennet of Colorado plainly just got frustrated.
Was Edward Snowden a traitor to the United States of America?
Senator, I will also repeat my answer. He broke the law.
This is when you need to answer the questions of the people whose votes you're asking for to be confirmed as the chief intelligence officer of this nation. As my colleague said, this is not about you. It's about the people that serve the intelligence agencies of the United States. Is Edward Snowden a traitor to the United States of America? That is not a hard question to answer when the stakes are this high.
Senator, as someone who has
your
served
answer,
in
yes
uniform,
or no, is Edward Snowden a traitor to the United States of America?
as someone who
I'll
has
go on
worn
to
our
my
uniform
questions.
in combat, I understand how critical our national security
Apparently
is.
you don't. Apparently you don't.
Joining us now is Democratic Senator Michael Bennet of Colorado, a member of both the Senate Finance and Intelligence Committees. So he had the pleasure of questioning both Tulsi Gabbard and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. today. Senator Bennet, I know it's been a really long day. Thank you for being here tonight.
Well, it's been too long, Rachel. I'm very happy to see you tonight.
I'm happy to see you too,
Thank
sir.
you for
Thank
having me.
Of course. Tell me your overall impression of Ms. Gabbard at her hearing today and how you think she did, and what you were thinking in that moment that I just played for our viewers.
I think that she didn't do well, and I think she didn't do well with Republicans and Democrats, not because of, an attack on her patriotism, which is what she kept asserting before the hearing even started, but because I think there's a lot of question about her judgment. You know, it just seems like every time she has the opportunity to go out of her way and side, for example, with a dictator who has rolled over the peaceful border of, let's say, Ukraine, she does that by sending emails in the middle of the night at 11:30 in that case. Or she goes to Syria and comes back and says, it goes out of her way again to say the intelligence community, who sometimes is wrong, but in this case was clearly right, that Assad had gassed his own people, that somehow that was wrong, and everybody who didn't agree with her was subject to some insane conventional wisdom. So it was a tough day in a sense, but I think a good day for the Senate's responsibility to advise and consent, and hopefully, you know, show that the Senate is not going to be a rubber stamp for Donald Trump's appointees.
There has been some interesting reporting all along the way from the Wall Street Journal, from some other outlets during the course of when she was meeting with senators ahead of this confirmation hearing today, and even quite recently, just onto the eve of this hearing, saying that senators were, forgive me, kind of weirded out by her in private, that she didn't, in some cases, seem to know what the Director of National Intelligence was as a job. She didn't seem to understand the basic facts of some of the basic foundational responsibilities and abilities of the U.S. intelligence community, that she just didn't seem, that she seemed both attitudinally and perhaps intellectually unsuited to the work. Are those concerns that have been reported in the press, do you think that will be made manifest in any of your Republican colleagues saying no to her?
Well, I don't want to get into their heads, and obviously they have their own individual decisions to make, but the Intelligence Committee is a place where we historically have worked in a bipartisan way. It doesn't mean we agree on everything, but we take seriously our responsibility, because most of what we do is in secret, and most of what we do is a responsibility to the other senators who don't have access to the intelligence that we do, and to the American people who don't have access to it. So I can tell you that people take very seriously the signal that would be sent, for example, to the Intelligence Committee if we confirmed somebody who not only couldn't take the position today on Snowden, but actually wrote legislation to pardon Snowden long after the facts of Snowden were understood, because of the work that the House committee did, that clear that he wasn't a whistleblower, but that what he had done was, you know, way out of line with what anybody should have done. He was part of our intelligence community. And I think, here's what I really think, Rachel. I think she is caught in this, I'm not sure what the word means, but I was thinking about it when you were describing what was going on, a miasma of this kind of confused social media chatter that outside of any hearing where you're actually being tested on something maybe makes sense, or maybe feels like something you can get away with. The same thing with Bobby Kennedy's half-truths, that the second that he's in front of a panel where there are actual doctors who are Republicans who are asking questions, he can't answer the questions anymore, because it's not just people that are nodding along and agreeing with the half-truths that he is articulating. And I think her approach to Putin is very much the same as Bobby Kennedy's approach to Medicare, if that makes any sense to you at all.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what you're saying is that the real world isn't Twitter and isn't your fans.
Right.
The facts have a way of following you home in the real world. Democratic Senator Michael Bennet of Colorado, it has been too long since you've been here, sir. Come back soon. Thanks for your time tonight.
I will. Thanks for having me, Rachel.
I appreciate it. I should mention that Senator Bennet took the lead in questioning RFK at the first of his two confirmation hearings yesterday about some of the most unnerving things that he has claimed, like COVID being engineered to spare the Jews, and pesticides making people transgender, and AIDS in Africa being different than AIDS in not Africa, and AIDS being caused by parties. Like, yeah. He took the lead in questioning on some of that most unnerving stuff. We'll see. To have all of these guys have hearings on the same day is it's almost too loud a circus for any of us to cover. We got more news ahead. We're doing our best. Stay with us.
Good job.